In this talk, I would go through different phases of Søren Kierkegaard's life. The first thing he talked about was on the woman's higher abilities, and I will comment on it from my own life and thinking. And so to keep it like in dialogue with who I am, who I became, and so in that way keep it personal as well. It's not just a presentation, but a presentation that's related to a lived life, the lived life that I have been through. And so, one of the first things he did when he was young, Søren Kierkegaard, a Danish philosopher and author, and if you don't know a lot about him, you can go to some of the talks that's out there. There's Herbert Dreyfus, 10 hours, and there are simpler introductions as well. But it's not fulfilling because it's so difficult to get around him. Anyhow, one of the first thing he threw himself out in was in 1834, where he wrote about the woman's higher abilities because they have a higher um, they have a higher originality. They are like the men, and the woman was that listener on the table of the snake's philosophy of life, and she was the one that made the action in the life of that lonely creature of life called Adam. And so many of the women had been better schoolmasters than the schoolmasters themselves. And he mentions Xantabe, the wife of Socrates, who went on as the true teacher behind the scenes and was actually the one that put Socrates on the way of becoming that philosopher because of the way she was towards him and the lack of what he couldn't find inside her, with her in her life. He went out getting it someplace else. So there is something special about the woman in his opinion, and something very able about them, and that's true. And it's a ironic reflection because most of the time men would like to see the negative sides of women and the strangeness of them, and at the same time we get, especially from the monotheistic religions, a picture of women as partners of life, in freedom and choice, and all the way back to Adam and Eve, where we have it in the both Jewish, Christian, and Muslim religions that, well, it all started there, and they were both responsible for what happened. I know in some particular explanations of these religions, you will find that the woman is the guilty one. She's the snake, she's the evil, she's the devil. But if you look broader and more accurately in it, especially when reflected as that partnership, that maybe she listened, but he listened too, and he had the choice and he followed, and he fell as well for that way of gaining knowledge and independence from God's garden. And so it's a very deep story that has philosophical implications. And so started the travel and journey for the man and woman together on this earth, and they have been together ever since. We cannot imagine life without the woman, and the woman would not be able to carry life on without the men. I'm speaking biologically. And even though we now can produce, what can you say, um, artificial cells that women can be inseminated with, they just still need the material and the genes, and maybe one day they will be able to recreate that material from an original sample, and then don't need the men anymore, like with the drones in the beehives, as long as and the spiders as well. And so maybe it's going to be a woman's society, truly freely of men, and only leaving some small species to be around, um, because they need to reproduce. So maybe this is part of the imaginative future that we can look into. And so this travel with the woman that Søren Kierkegaard is on here in his life, speaking and defending the woman's higher ability in that time where it was much more looked upon as the creature that follows, the creature that obeys, the creature that must be put in a cage, that is dangerous to let out. And maybe there is a point to that from the men's masculine perspective, from the animalistic perspective, that, well, the woman, if she dominates the male will lose his power and abilities. And the opposite goes as well. When the woman can see her chance to get the domination, she will once and forever put the male down and take over, because she will believe in a womanistic society as being a better one. And then there is the view in between. This is the balance between men and women as partners of life, as walkers together in this garden of non-Eden, this fallen place of misery and suffering and free will and choking on different troubles and challenges. So they are partners in that, and they need each other, has needed each other for all these 1,000 years. So how is it going to continue from here on? In my lifetime, we are living under a woman's society, and it's growing more and more, even though it's men controlling a lot of things. But the woman has been, and correctly so, empowered to be part of society. But what kind of consequences had that also brought with it, and what kind of changes had that brought with it? Of course, there's been reactions to that, and of course, some of these reactions can pinpoint some true elements of what goes wrong when the woman and men fight. And to quote a scene from Sherlock Holmes, the movies, Mycroft says to Sherlock, "This is a battle we must lose as men." They must lose to the woman, because the woman need to win the battle of life. Otherwise, things cannot go on. So, yeah, the woman's emancipation has been underway for a long time, and the woman's place has been under change for a long time. Even in the religions that would tell you, well, I'm from a Muslim culture and background, and I know from what I used to talk and read about and preach and tell people is that, well, the Islamic and Muslim view has had a more balanced look at the woman as a partner with Adam, and he was never free of guilt. She was not the only accused. And so you can see in the Jewish tradition that maybe women were put under string restrictions if you're going to follow the Orthodox conservative ways of that practice. And in the Christian one, she was seen as equal to that, in the old Christian practices, as equal to that voice of the devil and the snake and the one who will just lead the men astray. But we cannot live without them, so we need to have them under control, under God's order, otherwise things will go rotten. The same has the Muslim view, that the woman should be under control, otherwise, well, it's unleashing hell on earth, and it's disasters, and life will get out of balance. If you go to the Eastern religions, you will find also some kind of misogynistic look at the woman, and even in the modern Western cultures where people hip hurrah, always talking about equality and all that, we still find a lot of studies on how businesses are run in a way that misuses women, or maybe put them in situations under sex chicane, and maybe they only get the job because they look good, and so on and so on. So there is no truly fairly partnership there going on, but a misuse in many ways. At the same time, the woman has learned the key on how to misuse the world of men and to enter it. And so they have from all the way from the beginning how the dialogue went on between the two first humans, and how to get on from that. The woman has already found the way to his heart and the key to how to open his power and use it. So we have had through history very big and strong, not big, but very strong and big time influencing women on men and their actions. And they have been like what they say, the real power behind the power, the king behind the king. And she was the voice of the emperor behind the emperor. So not to underestimate the power of the woman's way into the powerful minds and hearts of the men ruling societies, and how that can and have affected societies. The same when we talk about what they say, the harlots, not the Madonnas, but on the opposite side of it, the women who can really use their beauty and thrilling effect to get what they want from the most powerful and most maybe resistant men who are both can be religious and can be politicians and can be philosophers and wise at the same time. There is no wise man when you meet the right woman. And so this is their power behind the lines, actually, and they have learned how to use it because this is how nature has put them in position to do. At the same time, men has had this view that, well, women are strange and not to be understood and has to be put under control. And some have had this more misogynistic look than others. Some have it slightly. And now in our modern times, we want the emancipation to be truly equally on same foot and level of man in each aspect of life. And this is just not gonna be, because the difference of biology and nature will automatically give the differences outside in the world. And that's why we have this fight today. Who is gonna control? Because there will be no harmony if everyone wants to be the same as the other. But when the women are running to become a copy of the man and be masculine and like step into the feet into the shoes of the man to be accepted in men's world, well, she's leaving her femininity behind. That's happened to Queen Elizabeth, as we have seen in the movie, when she got rejected by the court after the death of her father, and she was the weakling, and then she took over from her Catholic sister, who was a bit mad and crazy and paranoid, as they say. Anyhow, when she got there, she couldn't get through because they just saw her as a female who was looking to get a man and give birth to children and comb her hair. This is all that she's about. But so when she changed and went through that metamorphosis of becoming neither man or woman, becoming more like a neutral character of some kind of death-looking, pale-looking character between the masculine and the feminine, between life and death, where she became something else. She became part of something that's beyond male and female, and so they could relate to her as that kind of monarch, goddess in a way, that the woman who got above her nature, and so could take the reign and be accepted like as a kind of masculine figure in that feminine body. And the same goes when the males are trying to fight back on their areas and spaces, and the women are dominating them more and more. It is like kind of a battle and not really an understanding. And so some have been reaching that conclusion through the history of philosophy lately, that truly it's always has been a battle between the sexes. It's never been that kind of strive to harmony. It's the kind of nature that we see in spiders and bees and creatures out there that let the woman dominate after she uses the man for her use, and then she kills him or leaves him be or destroy him. We have it in all cultures and literature, and I know the Arabic literature is filled with these long poems on how she could take your heart and you would become number 100 in the line of the people who got killed on the way of getting her love. And nobody is getting her love at all, because she's always just using them for her means of power. This is also part of the feminine structure and strength. At the same time, you see the fragility and weakness in the woman femininity under men's hand. How much have they not suffered, and how many times haven't we learned about stories where women had been taken under the influence of strong men who took advantage of them and used their naive ways of looking at life, and so also broke their hearts and minds and took them like victims of his endeavors. And so women just become one of many whom he wanted to underlie him, and so we see it on the opposite side as well as a struggle. And so when you look at women, you're basically looking at yourself as a male. When a woman is describing a male, she's also describing herself and who she is, how she looks at life. And so when we want to go about and talk about the higher abilities and origin of women, like Sir Kierkegaard has been trying in this short article from his time in 1834, well, I'm here in 1925, and I can see that I understand when the males now are starting to fight back and want to put women in a more known, old-fashioned way of being, because they are not really happy on the way women are running society, and sometimes they feel it is becoming less efficient than they need it to be. Of course, there are also many women who are trying to really give men a lesson in how they should treat life and women, that they can bring about some kind of ways in life that is very much needed, that the men is not able to do themselves. In many posts and places, the woman is the right character to to use and to let to make get the job done. It's not only in the spy movies and not only in these corporates where she is the beautiful secretary or the one who will be the messenger to a place where they will be taken in by her beauty and charms. And even that effect has been wearing off now, because, well, yeah, many has become more and more immune to that woman's charm, and they can look through it and look through that somewhat narcissistic personalities that has developed in women, because they need to fulfill a job by being using their beauty and cunning and way of being. And when the men start seeing through that after many injuries and losses, well, it will lose its effect, and so we are back to square one. And so the whole idea of taking that partnership seriously is very important, and leaving away the fight. The fight is always there and will be there, but if we have it as a philosophy of life, that it is a fight between the sexes, male and female, this is the type of nature we are, well, I think our losses are just ahead, because truly we won't be able to survive. I have had this notion for a long time that when the robots are gonna take over, it's gonna be a woman that will defeat them. And I told that to a lady once. She laughed and she said, "Why are you saying that? That's a funny thing to say." I said, "No, it's not, because the woman can be so creative and unpredictable in their way of behavior that even the best robots who are programmed to understand human beings won't be able to detect her. And so if we one day are gonna win, we're gonna win because of women." And in all major religions, well, it's been the woman that carried on the messages. Well, we have Mary, mother of Christ. We have Aisha and Khadija behind and beside the Prophet Muhammad, that had a great impact and influence on him getting on with his message. We have Moses, his mom and his sister, their work, and later the wives of both him and the wife of King Solomon. He had many, but I think Hushana or Shushana, if I'm not mistaken. Then we have Sarah and her struggle, where we have Hagar and her travel. So the women have been like really central, even in these monotheistic religions that many people today associate with the misogynistic and machonistic, what can you say, man's chauvinistic views of life and how it should be put in order, and the woman has like a second rate or a third, fourth level of rights than the males. Even these religions are changing a lot. If I look back in the Islamic culture and literature the last 100 years, I have been seeing a lot of trying new pens trying to reinterpret the role of woman, focusing on her equality and her reason and her ability to give over the belief, and her position in the family and outside it, and her ability to both work and be alongside men and everything. That has changed a lot from 100 years on earlier. The same if you look at the Christian culture, how it developed from that place where women were not admitted and had no place, to a place that now in several places women can be both priests and bishops and lead the church. And so it's a big transformation that has been going on for the last 100, 150 years, taking us all the way back to the maybe Roman times, where women had this kind of position, and whatever effects that will take with it, because we all know that different type of organizing life between men and women, and basically the way we look at each other as male and female, has a lot to do um, with how we organize life, and then the consequences of that. And so what's the consequences of the motherless society, for instance? And is woman really being taken out of her natural environment of giving love and care and empathy and clever thoughts, writing poems, gardening, making life beautiful, for those hardworking males in the field and in the war field and in the companies, to find a place to rest and feel at home? Are they really been taken out of that role to be given a role similar to the male, and there is no one to fulfill that other role that is really needed, unless we feminize the men? That's what's happening in several societies. For instance, Scandinavia is a great example of that, where you feminize the males to make them go gardening, nursing, making food, and doing all the stuff. And even there, the fight doesn't stop, because you have the trouble of the woman saying, well, they're taking over even the basic old jobs that we had, and so the fight never ends. And that's why the relationship should be that of partnership and division of labor, but without suppression. This is the key element. The suppression the males have been doing came to become the rise of feminism. And feminism as a way of empowering women. We had it all the way back from John Stuart Mill on emancipation of women from 1897, writing about these issues. He was one of the top light towers for that, but of course the ideas weren't his. There are many others before him who has been discussing this issue forth and back. And so we can see good effects and sides of emancipating women. Let them get into laboratories, universities, getting university degrees, and advancing in life understanding. Because again, to quote that Sherlock Holmes dialogue scene, this is a battle we cannot afford to win. We have to lose it as males. And if we want to educate women, as Stuart Mill said, if we wanna make women equal to us, we have to give them the ability to learn everything that we have access to. There is no strangeness in a woman not able to ride a bicycle or look into mathematics or laboratory equipment, because she's not used to it, and she had not had this inherited culture of doing so for generations. But if you give her that chance, she will at one point reach to the level of the men and succeed or exceed them in her way of delivering the results. This is the view that Stuart Mill and others were like proclaiming and wanting to see in the world of cooperation, empowerment of women, getting out of that suppression, the misuse of power that men has held for several thousand years, and everybody was like just accepting. But it's not true at the same time, because women, when they saw that masculine power being used, they went to their very cunning power behind the scenes and used it as means of power. It's like the women also accepted that role division, and the way they had the power men didn't have, and so could see their way of fighting back through that. So it's all getting back to, are we in a fight, or is it a journey where we are traveling together like Adam and Eve, and both responsible for our freedom and actions in the world? This is the philosophy I think we need to get back as a global idea. And I know I'm resounding several ideas from others and religions. This is not original thoughts by me, but it's like just to sum up that we need to fully respect women and see them as equals and understand they have abilities we don't. But at the same time, if we want to make a division of labor because they can have some sensibilities and their brains can be functioning in ways ours aren't functioning, we have to make sure that does not become suppression, and it does not become a way of treating them badly and misogynistically. So it's the suppression that we need to get rid of, and not the labor division. Uh, Sometimes in modern days we can see women having 2 and 3 jobs. She has to go to the company and make the work function there, and understand her boss. It can be another woman. That's not easy at all, because not all women really get along, and there will be fights also among the same group of women and sex, because of their different chemistry and views and ways of life. But so she has to go and do that job, and then she comes home to another job, to her family, if she has one, if she wanted to get one, or her love of life love, or whatever she has to do. And then maybe she has a third job by doing something in her time off work and off duties in the social arena. Is that a way of putting women equal, or is it just a new way of fighting a fight that's unreasonable, just to get on the level of where men are? And why should men have these privileges out there if you are taking the privileges from women in other places to affect and influence men? This is what we need. We need women being able to, not being suppressed, being able to influence men, and being able to feel empowered without necessarily going and becoming masculine and losing their femininity, and without needing to do all the hard work and labor that most men just by nature and physics are equipped to. And so even though we can make that product today to make a woman be as strong as males, like these, I get the picture in my head of these very strong, muscular women who can lift heavy weights, and they are totally out of their femininity. I can barely see the woman inside that body. She is trying to resemble the male so she can beat him. That's the only thing. She is not staying in her femininity and beating him from there like some others are doing cunningly. So if it's a fight, well, we will never end it. But if it's a corporation and a way of journeying together, I think we'll be much more prosperous as genders.